So I was thinking the other day that next for my Corvette, I should...
Hey, Jason?
Oh, not again. Yeah?
Just wanted to say that those Auxito headlights you installed in my car earlier in the year are still doing great.
Awesome! So anyway,
But now I want something better.
Why?
You're always coming up with reasons to keep upgrading your car. It's my turn again.
Yeah, I'll look into it. So for real, I was thinking that I could...
Do it now!
I'll get right on it. Hey, welcome to my garage. As you might know, a few months ago I reviewed and installed this Auxito LED headlight in my wife's car. It's the B1 series headlight, and as you heard, it's still doing great. Now for a budget LED headlight, it's done surprisingly well, much better than I would have expected. And I think that you can imagine that if it didn't perform well, I would have heard about it by now. However, Auxito has recently released a new LED headlight. This is the new Y13 series LED headlight. Can it dethrone the B1 as the best budget LED headlight? Let's find out. All right, let's check it out. Comes in a pretty decent box, if that matters anything to you. A little bit better box than the previously reviewed B1 headlight. Comes with some zip ties and an Allen wrench. The product manual, which you probably won't need if you know what you're doing because these are plug and play, but it does give you some installation tips and some adjustment tips, as well as product specifications and Q&A, and just in case there's a problem, how to get the warranty honored. And here's the headlight unit itself. Now the first thing you notice when you pick it up is the quality design, just like the previously reviewed B1. It's got a very nicely machined base to it. In fact, even the retainer tabs are also metal instead of plastic, which is nice. And you notice that it's just a different design, with a much thinner core, and I'll be getting into those details in a little bit. Now there's two things that a good quality headlight replacement needs, and one is quality chip placement as close to the factory positioning as possible, so the light output is as close to what the factory headlight reflector was designed for. And number two is a method of heat management and dissipation. That equals less light reduction and better overall longevity. Now the Y13 has both of these. The LED chip here is very close to the factory filament in the OEM bulb. And it also has a high RPM fan with a separate driver. And note that the driver indicates that this is DOT approved, which is not always common. Now let's compare it to the previously reviewed B1 series. Obviously on the left is the previously reviewed B1, and on the right is the Y13. Now let's compare the factory specs. The B1 is a 20 watt light. However, the Y13 is double that at 40 watts. The color of the B1 is 6000 Kelvin white, and the color of the Y13 is 6500 Kelvin white. A touch bluer, not too much. Now this is where it starts to get interesting. The lumen output. For the B1, each unit puts out 4,500 lumens, but the Y13 puts out almost double that at 8,000 units. That's probably due because of the chip size. The B1 has an 1860 chip, which is 1.8 millimeters wide by 6 millimeters long. The Y13 has a much bigger 3570 chip, which is, of course, 3.5 millimeters wide by 7 millimeters long. The body on both of them is aluminum. They're pretty nicely machined for what it's worth, but you'll notice that on the Y13 it's much shallower. And that means you can mount it in more compact places if needed. Now let's talk about board thickness. The B1 has a thickness here of 0.115 inches and here of 0.240 inches thick. It also has this design here, which is 0.575 in diameter across. The Y13, on the other hand, has a different design. It's got this very, very thin copper core that's 0.079 inches thick. What that means is it puts the LED chips very, very close to the same placement as the OEM filament, which is, again, very important for light output. Now the plug on both of them, non-polarity, so it doesn't matter which way you plug it, you're not going to get it wrong. Both do have an adjustment ring. This one is adjustable just by friction alone, so you can clock it as needed based on your light reflector design. However, the Y13 has a set screw that locks it in place, which you use the hex wrench that came with it to adjust. Now let's talk about cooling. Again, the B1 has a built-in heatsink. It's pretty big, it's pretty well designed with an internal driver. The Y13 has a 12,000 RPM fan as well as that external driver. That's probably why The estimated lifespan of the B1 is 40,000 hours, but the Y13 is 50,000 hours because it has slightly better cooling and heat dissipation properties. Now let's talk about price. The B1 when I bought it was $34.99, and the Y13 when I bought it was $49.99, a $15 difference. Now the B1 is the best budget headlight I've tried. It still works great, but for $15 more, you do get an updated design, better heat dissipation, CAN bus ready for 99% of the cars out there, so you don't likely need a CAN bus decoder. And as I mentioned, it's DOT approved. I've got the light hooked up to my power supply, and a lot of people have been asking me what power supply I use. I use a Tech Power TP30 SWV. I've used it for years. It's never let me down. It's great. I'll put a link in the description in case you want to pick one up. They're pretty good power supplies, especially for testing things like this. So because it's a non-polarity plug, it doesn't matter if I did red or black or red. It doesn't matter. So I got it hooked up, and I'm going to fire this thing up. And one thing I've learned over time is not to look directly at it when you click these things on. In fact, you don't want to look in the general area because they're just so bright. So here we go. Yeah, it's awfully bright. I mean, that's what you expect out of it. It's just a bigger chip, better placement than the predecessor, and gosh, is it bright. And you can really hear the fan spinning. It's pretty quiet, but you can tell it's really moving. I'm going to just move it up to the microphone to see if you can hear it. It's very, very quiet, but you can tell it's running. I've heard some pretty noisy fans and some LEDs, but this is one of the quieter ones. So yeah, this is great that I've tested it and it works. I usually do that before I go through the hassle of installing anything, just to make sure. Pretty impressive overall, though. All right, so now that I know it works, I guess I'm going to go install it and see how it looks. I didn't even look directly at it at all. I just looked at it in my peripheral, and I'm still blind. They're just getting brighter and brighter, which I guess is great. And I'll take this time as a public service announcement. Don't forget to aim your headlights anytime you change them. I've installed the Y13 on the driver's side, and I left the previously reviewed B1 on the passenger side. And I don't know if the camera is going to pick up the differences, but I'll describe them for you. The Y13 has a bit of a crisper cutoff line at the top, just a little bit. It's also fuller. So it's obviously a clear evolution of the original B1. Now, I'm not going to show the differences by driving because chances are you're not going to be able to see it because it won't be picked up on the camera. That's why I'm giving you the play-by-play now. But the Y13 is definitely an evolution of the B1, and we've been really happy with the B1 so far. Surprisingly enough, I think we're going to be just as happy with the Y13. Now, if you're in the market for a budget LED headlight upgrade, which one's for you? It's really hard to say because they're both actually great budget LED headlights. So far in my testing, the B1 that I reviewed before works great. But I definitely say if you don't already have it, then get the Y13 because it's only around $15 more than the B1, depending on size. Now, if you already have the B1 because of my previous review and it's working well for you, you can stick with it and you'll be fine. But if you want just a bit more, I'd say definitely upgrade to the Y13 and then keep the B1 as a backup. That's what I'm doing, and it tells you that either way, you can't go wrong. Now, I put links in the description for where you can get yours, and be sure to check out my other videos for more LED reviews, from budget ones like this to premium LEDs and more. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because I got a lot more coming in the future that you're not going to want to miss. Thanks as always for hanging out in my garage with me, and I'll see you in my next video.